Welcome to the Ultimate Relationship Show, where we talk with guests who share their intimate secrets and give us tips on how we can live our best life and have the ultimate relationship. And I'm also the author to Secrets to a Kick-Ass Marriage. I am a relationship coach, and I'm the creator of the Live Sexy Relationship Show. So welcome. Today we have an incredible guest. He has actually become my friend, and his name is Jason Weisgerber. You'll need to check him out, and I will give you a link to it, but he's amazing. So let me just tell you a little bit about Jason. He is a keynote speaker as well as the creator and host of the online audio series, the Enoughness Sessions, based on his forthcoming book, Enoughness, Finding Fulfillment and Living a Fully Expressed Life. Jason has an eclectic educational background as a professionally trained actor. Listen to his voice, you guys. When you hear his voice, you'll be like, wow, he sounds like a professional actor. And that's why. With a degree in business as well as a theological master's in consciousness studies, he is equally self-taught and formally educated. Jason's belief is that a full life includes the right mix of personal peace, self-expression, and measured accomplishment, otherwise known as enoughness. So welcome, Jason. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Midori. My pleasure. And thank you for that lovely introduction. It was very nice.
Yeah, no, I'm just so excited to have you because I did meet you when I was doing the Women Network Virtual Summit, and
Right.
You were one of the guys who really stuck out to me. And what I loved about you, Jason, I love your message, of course, and we're going to get more into that, but your authenticity and your transparency and your willingness to kind of take off the clothes and let us see who you really are.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, and we've just, who knows, by the end of this year, clothes might be off. We'll see where it goes. I'm thinking maybe we should have like a stripper pole add it to the show. It would be kind of fun.
Midori's like, hey, by the way, I forgot to tell you, you're going to have to do some stripper pole stuff. Anyway, you'll love it. Next.
It's, you're an actor, so aren't you supposed to be able to just roll with whatever comes your way, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Improvisation is my key tool. Yes.
It's a talent. It's a talent. So we'll see where this goes, everyone. Kind of listen in. Right. But anyway, I want you to tell the audience, because I was so mesmerized when you were telling me your story about how you came up with the concept for enoughness. It really there's something that I could identify with, even though I wasn't to that point, but it was just interesting. So tell us your background story of how you came to where you are now.
So I think what's best is that I kind of start now and go backwards, just to give everybody an idea of what enoughness is. Because yes, I did make the word up. It's a made up word. It doesn't exist. I made it up, and in my book I say I gave it meaning, and it gave me meaning. And so enoughness briefly is state of being where I'm recognizing my inherent value. That's independent of my history, independent of my circumstances. So this is a huge key to the entire concept of enoughness, is recognizing your inherent value, right? And I can go more into that, and obviously that's explained further in the book. But the other part of that is finding what fulfillment means to you and what it feels like to you, viscerally, what fulfillment feels like. Think about being hungry. If you just never knew when you were full or satiated, you'd never really enjoy eating. So when you really know what fulfillment feels like for you, you can actually produce it, reproduce it, recreate it purposefully, no matter what's happening in your life, because you already know what it feels like for you. And
so let me ask you a question really quick. The fulfillment, does that mean what makes you happy? What makes you feel like you're really involved in life? Tell me a little bit about what you mean. Clarify fulfillment.
Yeah. That's a good point. Fulfillment is less emotional than it sounds, I think. Sometimes it literally is sort of a state of being. And in that state of being, it are feelings of peace, I would say, personal peace, a feeling of kind of completion. That feeling when you've marked off all your task list and you feel at ease, you feel accomplished, you feel complete.
Okay.
That is a sense of fulfillment. And I believe that putting more attention on that feeling that you have on your own tends to invite it into your life more often. And so the other thing on top of fulfillment is living a fully expressed life, is living with full creative self-expression. So, and I'll tell you about the history of enoughness as well here. Inner peace is fantastic. Feeling fulfilled is wonderful, but it ain't nothing compared to being a fully expressed human being. I grew up shy, very, very pensive, very quiet. I didn't really even talk till I was 14. It took me 10 years of acting in Los Angeles and New York to finally come to some level where I felt comfortable in crowds, talking one-on-one with people, being myself, using my voice. And so for me, that one of the key factors to happiness, joy, fulfillment, peace is being a fully expressed human being. And that could be in many different ways that could show up, and we'll talk more about that. So I came to enoughness when I had a little breakdown, basically, in a park in Los Angeles at 2 a.m. I was at the end of basically a 10-year effort to become an actor in New York and in Los Angeles, to become a professional actor, to become a movie star. I mean, to really tell the truth about it all. I mean, to be at the fullest experience of being an actor. And I just failed. Nothing came through. Nothing was happening financially, spiritually, mentally. I went to a movie that night, 2 movies, a doubleheader, just to escape this, I was severely depressed, really just clueless. We're walking home after these 2 movies, which usually, going to movies gets my mind off of things. And I'm walking home and I literally just stopped. I couldn't take another step and fell to the ground and just flipped out. Was crying and screaming and yelling and punching the earth and cursing everything and everyone. And I was like, I'm done. And I was essentially, the few months leading up to this, I was suicidal. Mm. Not in a dark way, but in a way that was like, I just need some power back in my hands. And that was the only thought of the only choice that I could come to in this weird place that I was in. And when I had that breakdown, I think part of me was like saying, I don't want to do that. I want something else. And I broke down. I just everything busted open. Right after that, I look up, I'm on my knees, and I'm looking around the park, and I see that everything is crystal clear and everything is illuminated, which is a glow that comes from within. It's not an external light. The grass, the trees, the rocks, the birds were flying in and out of the trees. Everything seemed so alive. It was surreal. And there was just a deep, beyond peace that I was feeling. Bliss that came in as well, this clarity. And I used to kind of describe this as a spiritual awakening. And it is. But the other human aspect of it was depression is really nasty. Mm-hmm. It covers up everything like a thick, heavy, wet wool blanket over your head. And what this moment felt like was somebody just pulled that blanket off all at once. And I look up and I'm looking around and everything just seems crisp and vivid, quiet, still, alive. And I'm feeling that inside as well. I'm feeling all of that peace and that strength come back. Of course, it's going to feel like a spiritual moment, but after developing it over some years, I look at it as really just a quick, brief, full release from the grip of depression and feeling what I would feel like, looking at what the world might look like. Now, I slowly just picked myself up and walked home that night. I didn't think too much about it, but I was still severely depressed and suffering and in pain and confused and lost and broken, I suppose. And so a few months later, I said, I need to go back to that experience. And I wasn't a big meditator. So I sat down in a meditation and I just started trying to recall that experience and trying to figure out, what is my life? What am I trying to figure out here? What do I want in my life? And I couldn't come to Midori. It was weird. I couldn't come to a picture. I couldn't say, what I want is I want to work for ABC company and I want to be a CEO and I want to make this kind of money and I want to have a boat and a nice home and and be married and have kids. I couldn't literally come to any visual picture of what I was looking for in my life. It was so bizarre. So I dumped that whole thing and I said, well, then what is the feeling that I want to experience? What is this feeling that I've been just, dying to experience? What is it? And it was this experience that I just had it in this park. And just asking myself that question started to bring back that actual experience. And I said, what is this called? What is the name of this? What is this? And enoughness, the word enoughness just gently bubbled up and was like, oh,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's the story. That's how enoughness came. And I developed it over time, and I've just finished the book on it, and that will be released in a couple of weeks on Amazon.
I can't wait to read it. And I encourage everyone watching or listening to check out his book. I will let you know. It'll be on our website too.
Right.
But it does become available, and I'll put it out there and let you all know, because there are we only have so much time to go into things during this interview, but I know your book is going to go so much deeper. And the thing that I love about what you're talking about, Jason, is that regardless of whether a person has gotten to that point where they're just like broken, but so many of us go through struggles. In fact, I know a couple of people who recently lost their jobs, and there's punches that come out of left field all the time in our life. You don't know. It could be health. It could be someone leaving you. It could be where you just are working so hard for something. I mean, you've heard me talk about my business for a long time. You work so hard and you're like, why? We all go through it's part of life, right? It's part of
if you're a human being, you're not exempt in some form or another. And it happens repeatedly. And it will happen always, all throughout your entire life, no matter how masterful you are at living. We're always going to come across disappointment, disillusionment, dissatisfaction and discomfort and all those things.
And I think listening to your story, that moment when you're in the park and all of a sudden everything just seemed so vibrant and alive. Yeah. And you said it was more of the feeling that you had that was more important. You couldn't picture what you really wanted in life, but you wanted that feeling back. Right. I think it's important for everyone to remember those times when things are really good, because we have those periods of time where you're like, damn, this is good. Things are going well. Everything is lining up and I'm super happy, whatever that means to you. It's important to remember those times and kind of create that memory in your head. Maybe even, I love when people journal and they write that down so they can come back and visit it. But those are tools in your toolbox, right? That's kind of how I see it. It's a tool in your toolbox that, having a term for it, which I love you did, enoughness, it kind of makes sense. It's like, oh, that's what I'm looking for. That's fulfillment. That's what it's about.
That's it. And it is highly internal. It's highly intrinsic. But it has really a direct influence on circumstances, on creating a life that you want. You really become the master of your destiny, the master of your fate. And this is what I call it in the book. It's about fostering a feeling, right? We're sentient beings. Sentient is a feeling being. So fostering a chosen feeling, first finding it, I found it, called it enoughness. Mm-hmm. Then learning how to foster that feeling. It's never perfect, but day after day, fostering a particular chosen feeling, you can understand that it's like putting on a pair of glasses that you've selected, and then looking at the world from there. And the world is just a little bit more accessible when you're in that consciously chosen feeling. So it's kind of like a cure-all. For me.
I love it. I love that you have a term for it. So we can kind of relate with it, because otherwise it's like, okay, well, what do you mean? What do you mean that birds were flying and the rocks were shining?
How do you repeat that?
Now I get it.
Really cool that you had that experience, but what's the point? How do I repeat that? And I created a practice, the practice of enoughness. And there's internal steps to take. There's external goals.
Okay, so let's get there, because I want my audience to have some tips. I want them to have some takeaways. So, also, you talk about how enoughness can play into relationships. So I want you to go there a little bit and tell us about that. And then I'm going to make you give us some takeaways. Okay.
So, well, I can't go too far into it, but I'll give you some teasers.
Okay.
In the practice of enoughness. And as they say, you'll have to read the book.
Okay. All right.
But listen, they're not complex. They're not difficult. And I purposely keep them very simple, but there's an internal practice that starts with being still, having a stillness practice, I call it. So, I've practiced transcendental meditation. I've practiced other forms of formal meditation. And as an actor, we did a lot of things around working with our bodies and working with creative expression and stillness. And so I combined my acting background, some of my practices as an actor, and my meditation, and created the stillness practice, which is simply taking 10 minutes every day, working up to 20 in the beginning of your day, sitting down and being still as a statue. Just sitting there and being still. Learn to be still, right? It's an eagle's.
Wow. That's a practice that I'm not good at yet.
I hear you. And, but the value, everything begins from stillness. What I learned from that moment in the park was that so much was happening quite naturally when I was able to just sit there and enjoy the feeling of peace and bliss without trying to take some action on it. Believe me, in the book, I described what I did when I started feeling that bliss. I was like, oh, I want to ask all these questions. I want to know all these things. And I want to get something done. But the reminder in that part kept going, no, dude, just sit still. Sit down for a minute. I'm not saying check out of life. It's the opposite. Sit still. Connect with yourself for 10 minutes, just being there, and then step out into your day. Marginal, but there's a change that will start to influence the way that you deal with things. And then there's another practice that's really simple and kind of straightforward that I call creating your own personal ecosystem. You look at the 5 areas, and 5 areas that are your most 5 areas in your life that you're most intimate.
Did you say ecosystem or ego?
Ecosystem.
Okay.
So, for instance, one of the areas is your car. Is your car clean? Is the maintenance done? Is the trunk empty? Are you happy? It's a way to just clear your mind of minor things in your life, but also an area where those areas where you're most intimate, like your car, or say your bedroom, or another one that I mentioned is music and entertainment. These are the areas that are most influential around you, your office. And do those areas represent enoughness? For instance, for me, do those areas represent for me the areas that are most intimate to me, that I have the most control over? Have I consciously created that space to reflect back to me who I am, who I want to be, how I want to feel? So another example is music and entertainment. I used to watch movies that were like really dark and dramatic and heavy and intense as an actor every day. No wonder I was depressed. Sean Penn was my favorite actor because he just was in pain all the time. I thought that was the coolest thing. And now lightness and happiness and agility to me is what's the new cool. And so I don't watch movies like that anymore. I don't listen to rap music and hardcore stuff anymore. I listen to the soundtrack from It's Complicated with Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin. It's sweet. It's nice.
A mindset, right?
Totally. It's an atmosphere. It's creating an atmosphere. And I do it with movies. I'll only watch inspiring, uplifting movies like The Blind Side. But I'm doing this on purpose.
I only watch romantic comedies. My husband. But I'm like, okay, what's cute and what's going to make me feel good?
Yeah, exactly.
It's more of a happy presence.
By the way, they say that Julia Roberts is getting ready to do her next romantic comedy because she's been missing doing those for a long time. So she's the queen of romantic comedies.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Great.
So there's an internal practice, creating the stillness practice. There's a sort of in between worlds practice in creating an ecosystem where those, just those immediate atmospheres that are under your control, you're creating some semblance of, to reflect back to you how you're wanting to feel. Real quickly, those areas are your car, your office, your home, your bedroom, the music and the entertainment that you subject yourself to or expose yourself to, whatever, and your peer group.
Ooh, good point.
Right?
Yes. What do they say? The top 5 people that you hang out with are a reflection of who you are and who you want to become. Right.
Who you are and where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the final one is a goal setting exercise. I call it bucket balance. And I have you divide your life into 6 different areas. And I describe what each of those areas ought to look like really at an optimal level. And those areas are, pretty straightforward: professional, personal, financial, immediate family, intimate family, which is where love and the relationships come in, but including if you have children, and then social. So social is the party, the celebrate, that just have a good time, have fun, but also your social influence, meaning where do you volunteer in the community? I have people rate themselves from 1 to 10 in each of those buckets, and then specify 2 of them that they want to work on, and then set specific goals for immediate, short, and long-term growth. So there are practices that surround enoughness, but the one that's probably the most important in the book is visioning. Mm-hmm. So I have a practice in there that guides you. It's like a guided vision into the experience of enoughness. And once you're through with that, you're tapped into what enoughness is for me. Enoughness is different for everyone. So here's just a general guide to kind of bring you into your own experience of what's your optimal equilibrium? What's your optimal feeling? What does it feel like for you? Take a moment through this process, name it. There it is. And once it's sort of set in, then you look out into, this practice comes before the bucket balance. Then you look out into those 6 areas of your life from this prime state of being, and say, here's how I want to live. Here's how I have to make adjustments. Cool?
I love it. And I can see how that can apply to a couple. What I train is something similar, but how couples can work together to create that ultimate life that they want. And that's what you're talking about too. It's the visualization. It's everything. It has to be mind and body. It has to be. You have to be able to see it and feel it and know what you want.
And Midori, I'm single. I'm still single, ladies, or whatever.
Hey, everyone, Periscope friends.
Ladies. And, but what I attribute that to, people ask me, why are you so single? What's going on? I say, it took me a long time to really figure out who I was and sort of have my own thing going and know, that, and I think that's so important for relationships. And probably the biggest thing is when you get into one, you really, as much as you can, have to be a complete person before getting in, or while you're in a relationship, find a way to become that complete person. What do you love to do? Are you pursuing your goals and your dreams? Do you have a creative outlet? Are you a fully formed person?
You know what I think is the coolest thing about a relationship is when the 2 people can come together and figure it out together, where they're bringing it out, because a lot of times we don't see what others see, right? We don't see our own greatness, but your partner can help bring it out. And when you're working together on goals or whatever it is, that's when the relationship really gets deep and awesome, is when you can pull it out of each other and help lift one another. And in return, you figure out who you are, you figure out who your partner is, and you grow together. And that's the beauty of when a relationship really explodes and blossoms.
Now you're making me miss being in a relationship, Midori.
Well, who knows? After
that sounds so great. I sound so nice. I love it. It's so true. No, but you're 100% right. And I think a relationship is the final frontier for spiritual and personal growth. It really does. I mean, I can tell you, I've been single most of my life, and I've been single now for a couple of years, and there's so much growth that happens individually. And it's, in the end, I'm so glad that it's happening. I also know that the most fun and the biggest work and the greatest work happens in relationships. So okay,
so that brings me to my next part. We are going to play a game.
All right.
Okay, so hold on one second. Okay, so let's go. You ready, Jason? This is called the truth or truth question game.
Okay.
And it was just, you probably couldn't hear the music, but it just played.
Okay.
So you have to answer honestly.
I can always hear.
You can't fluff questions, and you can't. There's no passes. I don't play the pass game, so you have to answer. You have to answer each of these questions
truthfully, I guess. Okay.
You have to be honest, because that's what it's all about, right?
Okay.
Not that hard. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 1, and this might get you a new date. because that's what this is all about. So we'll find out. Okay, so if you're going out on a special date, where would you choose to go? A dinner night out. B, go to the beach. C, a candlelight dinner next to the fire.
You know, one of my favorite teachers and guy that I used to work with, Brendan Burchard, who's a speaker and author and all these great things, he has said there's a one answer to every question, and that is, it depends.
Nope.
So it's a restaurant, the beach, or what was the third one?
Candlelight dinner next to the fire. So think of like your best memories. What was, out of experiencing those?
I would pick the candlelight dinner.
Okay. Next to the fire, right? Especially, I know it's snowing where you are right now, so that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Very good.
Okay, so the next question.
Yeah.
What's most important to you? A, sexual chemistry, or B, spending quality time together?
There's no C?
There's no
C is both, all of the above. Sexual chemistry or what was it?
Or spending quality time together.
Oh man, Midori, that's pressure.
It is pressure.
Seriously, I don't do well with either ors. My philosophy is both. So my initial answer is both, but if I have to comply to your structures and stuff, then I will say
100% honest.
Quality time.
Quality time.
I've had both. I've had actually not really had both. I've had the sexual chemistry plenty of times, and I mean not
it's important.
I don't mean plenty of times. What I mean is that I've usually chosen that, and it is very important. And what I've also found is that it's something that can be built. That's something that can be created and worked on. And quality time, I think, is, if that's there, that's such a wonderful base. And I love spending quality time. It's one of my five love languages, by the way.
Is what, spending quality time together?
Quality time. So there's
or sexual chemistry. Which one?
Quality time.
Okay. Quality it is time. Important. Both of them are actually very, very important. And they do show in studies that the sexuality part of it is almost equally as important.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, but it is, because it builds trust and blah, 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 and all kinds of stuff. But okay, but now we're on to C.
Okay.
We're on to question number 3. The hottest celebrity of all time. A, Marilyn Monroe. B, Beyonce. C, Jennifer Aniston. Or D, Ricky Martin.
Oh my goodness. Okay, give them to me one more time.
Okay, ready? Yeah. A is Marilyn Monroe. B is Beyonce. C is Jennifer Aniston. D, Ricky Martin. He's my choice.
Ricky Martin is your choice?
I love Ricky Martin.
Funny enough, I'll actually say Beyonce.
Beyonce's very hot.
Or Aniston. But Beyonce, because she really is. She's hot, but she's beautiful also. She can be classy. And I love performers. And I think is one of the ultimate performers of all time. She really is. She's maybe not the best singer, but put it all together, the woman, and she's a great dancer. She's a really good singer, but put it all together, the woman she kind of just knows what she's there to do, and really strong. So yes.
She's amazing. But did you see Jennifer Aniston in the movie? I don't remember the movie because I'm terrible at memorizing names.
Yeah, I'm great.
She did the stripper pole dance.
Yeah, the Meet the Millers.
Yes. That was pretty impressive.
That was her. And she's hot. She is hot. She always has been. She definitely, I love that. If you were to say, who would you date, who would you be in a relationship with? And you mentioned it would be Aniston for sure.
Yeah. But that wasn't the question, but that's a good point. That is a good point. Okay. Favorite piece of women's clothing.
This is fun. I love this stuff. Okay.
A, shoes. B, dress, like an actual dress. A fitted dress. C, undergarments.
Undergarments.
Okay, well, I appreciate that honest answer. It's true.
You said that my favorite piece of
women's clothing: shoes, dress, or undergarments?
Yeah, undergarments. Undergarments for sure. Dress is my second. Dress is beautiful. I love. style and everything. But
Okay, but that's not the question. Okay, so we're going on to the next question. You ready?
Yeah.
What are you most likely to watch on TV? You did give us some insight into it earlier, but here's your options.
Okay.
Okay, so A, sports. B, housewives of whatever city you choose.
Okay.
C, anything on PBS.
From those choices, sports, baby.
Sports?
Sports.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Really, not housewives? What about Kardashians?
What about what?
Kardashians.
You know, I've never seen any of those shows, actually. I've never seen any housewife shows. I may have seen like glimpses of them, but I've never seen, you know what I saw once was like the children's performers' moms or whatever it is, where it's about the moms of.
I've never watched that, but it looks like an absolute disaster.
It freaks me out, and I think it scares me to watch those other shows. So
that was enough. That was close enough. Okay. Right. All right. So next question. What piques your interest most in a woman? So let's all remember he's single right now. So he's not in a long-term relationship. So we have to think of it from that standpoint. Okay, ladies and men. So I'll ask it again. What piques your interest most in a woman? A, their figure. B, facial attractiveness. C, a stunning personality.
Oh, oh man. Oh. You did this on purpose.
I did.
Okay, a stunning figure, her face.
Facial attractiveness or a stunning personality.
Stunning personality. Oof.
So let's put it into a scenario. So yes. You're at a party, a dinner, or not a dinner party. You're at a cocktail party, and you're talking with. Let's say you're talking to
a stunning personality. I got you on that.
Yeah.
I'm at a party. And what would attract me these days today?
And you've been talking to them for a little bit, so it's not like just seeing them across the room.
Yeah, face. You know, a person's face tells me a lot. And actually, the work that I do, and when I coach, and when I work on people in presentation and everything else, face tells me a lot about a person. You know, I'm attracted to a look, but I can also see a lot. I'm just the way that I work. But the personality would be the part of it. And I can just see that would be someone that would be caring for, you know, that would be good at caring for me and allowing me to care for her, and we'd have fun. So that's your final answer? Justification for that.
You're giving some like kind of wishy-washy answers, but that's okay, Jason. We're going to let you slide on.
A little diplomatic.
I know you are. Okay, here's the bonus round. You ready?
Yeah.
What compliment works best for you when you're talking to someone? Let's assume you're in a relationship. And this may explain why you're not in a relationship. So here we go. A, you look great today. B, you've lost weight. C, you look better than my ex. Or D, you look just like your mom.
Oh man, these are things that I'm saying to her.
Yes. Which one are you most likely to say?
Definitely not that you look like my ex or whatever that one was. And so what are the other three?
You look great today. You've lost weight. You look just like your mom.
You look great today okay.
All right. Well, then you should be in a great relationship. That was a good answer.
Okay,
yay,
good.
You finished. So you win a car.
Right. A car with a date in it?
Yes.
Well, that's up to me.
So anyway, Jason, this has been so much fun, and I just love chatting with you.
Hey, how much time do we have? I have one thing that I want to share with you.
Okay, go for it. Tell me.
Exercise specific towards relationships.
Oh, okay. Tell me. Tell us.
This is actually how I haphazardly got into coaching and this whole kind of world in the first place. I went to Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles with Michael Bernard Beckwith, one of my favorite teachers and speakers of all time. And I used to go to services there often, and I was a part of the church and did a lot of things. This is it's been a while. And, you know, you walk outside after services and everybody wants to talk about life and their lives and things. And I'd be in a group with women, and I found it after a while that people would often ask me, women would often ask me, I'm having trouble in my relationship world. I'm having trouble finding a relationship. What is that all about? And I kind of had some theories and some thoughts about it. And then I was talking to one of my friends who was beautiful, wonderful. I love her. She's got a PhD. She raised a child by herself, worked full time by herself. I don't know how she did it, but she was maybe a couple of 100 pounds overweight. So she was struggling for a long time in finding somebody. And I said, listen, I have this idea. Write down for me all the things that you would see in a man and want in a man. Okay. And bring it back to me. So the next week she brought it back, and it was 3 pages long,
wow,
with bullet points on, here's all the physical attributes, the emotional attributes, the mental, the life preferences, and all kinds of things. And I said, wow, you know this dude inside and out? Yes. She said, yes, I do. I said, okay, well, check this out. If you know him, and this was all coming sort of intuitively, but it worked really well. If you know him that well, I want you to do me a favor. Step into his shoes now. Step into this. You created it. Step into their shoes. Okay. Did it. Now look back at yourself. And from his perspective, what are the things that he wants, this man that you've created, in a relationship?
Oh, good question.
And here's the best part. Where are those areas that where you're already at his level? Okay. And she was like, okay, great. Interests, spirituality, I can see that. Children, how we want to live in the world, how we want to represent, integrity, values. And, she was like, that sounds great. I said, now look at the things that aren't yet there that you would need to develop. And she said, got it. And there were just a couple of things that she needed to work on in herself that would bring her sort of to the level of being ready to be in a relationship with this man. And this is all happening in her own psyche, in her own imagination. Mm-hmm. But it was self-motivating. It clarified for her what she now needed to focus on and do. And they weren't big things. I mean, yes, losing weight and focusing on that aspect of things. And then, but, she's found this natural motivation for the first time on how to go about, getting in better shape. And there were a few other things that she wanted.
She knew the man that she already, even though she
hadn't seen,
but in her head, she had already created him. So she knew him.
So she already knew him.
Yeah.
So she could think for him and say, here's the things that I like. And then go, oh, well, and here's the little thing. It's like, well, now I have an inside story. I have the inside, dirt. I can now kind of shape myself. And what's great is that it kind of raised her up to the level of being in the kind of relationship that she wanted to be in. And she disciplined herself and made a few changes. And I'll tell you what, she met a dude like a month later who was king. I met this guy. He was king of the world. He was in the military and formerly, and still did a lot of work in the military. He was magnanimous. He had a high level of values, very high integrity, which were things that were very, very important to her. He was very noble. Those kind of people that you meet they ought to be either politicians or some sort of leader, because they really are. They're noble, they're smart, they're focused, and they care. He had all of those things, and he was good looking.
Wow.
And they dated.
Wow.
They dated for about a year, maybe a little less than a year. But his job required that he traveled constantly, internationally. And slowly it just started to get to the point where circumstantially it didn't work. So it's not a perfect story, but what I love about it is that it empowered her as a woman, as an individual, first of all.
Yeah.
She made changes that she wanted to make. She became clear about who she was. You can't take that away from anyone.
Right.
You can never lose that.
I love that.
And then she actually did get into a relationship. And when she was in the relationship, she was prepared. She was ready. She was present. So, that's something I think it's a really simple thing to do. If you're looking to attract a relationship, or even if you're looking to.
I think also if you're in a relationship, it's important to, because so many times what I see a lot of my clients coming to me, they want to change their partner.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. But by working on doing that same exercise of who's my ideal partner, what do they want from me, and starting with you and changing that, then that other person will start to evolve. So I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, I totally, I'm with you 100% on that.
And I've seen that in my own relationship. I've seen that exact same thing work in my relationship. Yes. So that's interesting that you just talked about that, because I'm thinking about it, and I wanted my husband to be a certain way, but then I realized, you know, it starts with me. I need to change my thought process and everything else. And then it took a while, but now I think my mindset changed too.
Right.
And a new life created, and it's amazing. It's
true. And it's funny, now that you mentioned that, I could see you're like, okay, I want him to change and I want these things to happen. But if you actually just said, okay, natural for me to feel that way. Let me take a step back and do this thing where I say, let's say that he became the person that I want him to become, and do the same thing that I was just talking about, and sort of look back and say, well, if he's going to be at that level, where am I at?
Right.
And guarantee at least one thing you'll find where you're thinking, okay, well, I guess I too need to be more open and not be, maybe I need to take less control about the way and share that power with my man. And I know, but if he's not stepping up to take control, I do it myself then. But I realize if I want him to, I've got to create space. So yes, then you start to actually shift your own self, and ultimately, he'll likely adapt.
Well, you empower yourself.
And along the way,
and that's the key. So you empower yourself, you build up your own confidence. And yeah, it's just kind of something that happens naturally because when you try to change someone, it doesn't work. I tell all my clients, don't try to change your partner, because it's not going to happen, and you'll never be satisfied, right? Never. You're going to be satisfied. You can't force someone to do something, but it happens just kind of subconsciously. And it's very cool.
Well, that's what I hope that Enoughness does for folks, is like it does for me. And I have to work on it every day. Listen, I wrote Enoughness not to become a teacher necessarily of it, but a sharer of my experience. And I have to do it every day. I say that, I kind of joke a little bit that I was kind of born with a crippled self-esteem. And it took me a long time to get to the point where when I trip, I'm very good at getting myself back up, but I trip all the time. And the cool thing about Enoughness is that it does give you an individual enough strength to be able to be in themselves and look out and be okay with themselves and and trust themselves. And then from there, you look out onto the world, and the things that you wanted to change before, or the people that you wanted to change before, you instead see them more as like a curious event. They're acting in a certain way, and no longer do you need anything from them necessarily. And you're thinking, here's how this person behaves, and this is just a quirky thing about them, and, interesting. And if it's friends or whoever, and you look at them and you say, wow, this person is actually very troubled and very negative. There's nothing wrong with me here. I just realized this is not for me. This relationship is not for me.
Good point.
Nothing wrong with them. I'm not judging them. I don't want them to change. But for my good, this is just not a right match. So,
very good point. I love that. Yeah. With that, Jason, thank you so much for all your insight and your honesty and your tips, which we did drag out of you. And for playing the game. It was awesome. I love you. You're such a great person to speak with, and I love what you're doing. And for those of you who want to get Jason's book when it comes out, just go to my website, MidoriVerdiInternational.com. And remember, international is abbreviated. So it's MidoriVerdiIntl.com. And that's where you can find everything about Jason. It'll take you to his site and show you where to get his book. So anyway, I encourage you to do that, because it'll probably change your life. It'll change the way you see things. And I strongly encourage it. I also think it's a great gift with Christmas coming up or the holidays. I think something like this, especially for a person who maybe is struggling with trying to find themselves, it's a fantastic book for that. So I encourage you to share it. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Midori. All of it wouldn't be possible without you. You create a very, very, very nice, open, sweet atmosphere, and I enjoy talking with you, and thanks for having me.
Of course.